Hello, welcome. I'm just getting started here. Let me fix my settings. Hello and welcome. This is just a quick kind of gardening Q&A. If you could let me know if the sound quality sounds okay, you guys can hear me and you can see me okay. One time I was doing a live and for whatever reason it looked normal to me on the screen, but for everyone else it was like the footage was going in and out or something like that, and I had no idea. So if you could just let me know if you can see me properly and can hear as well. Hello and welcome. Thank you for letting me know. And so I am doing this live through YouTube on an app through the YouTube app on my phone, and it's not the best thing for lives whatsoever. I'm gonna flip it to vertical view because if I don't, the chat is sideways and then I'll be like this the whole time. So I use the YouTube app instead of the other streaming apps and stuff like that because it works on my phone and I don't want to have to like download something else or get a laptop to run some other streaming program that works a little bit better. So I'm gonna flip this vertically, see if it does anything. Nope. Wait, 1 second, guys. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna go vertical for this. So anyways, there is also a storm brewing behind me here. Oftentimes it says it looks like it's gonna rain, but it actually doesn't. So we'll see what happens. But anyways, thank you for joining me today. I like to do random lives. Sometimes it's a great way to talk to you guys, answer your questions, kind of show you what's going on around in my garden. So this is just simply a Q&A. It's not a full-fledged like garden class like I've done before. Those garden classes take a lot of prep work and a lot of time to put together. So I just wanted to meet something more simple, just open-ended. What do you guys want to talk about? What are you struggling with? Any questions? I'm also a little bit sick, so I apologize if I cough or anything like that, but we're still gonna do this. I've been looking forward to this all weekend. So anyways, before we get started, just a couple reminders. I do have a Labor Day plant sale week thing going on. You can get 15% off plants from my website using discount code PLANT15. And that actually ends today. So take advantage of that if you want to stock up on some cool plants for your garden. Also, I started a brand new thing here on my YouTube channel. It's memberships. So I have two different kinds of memberships. There's one where you get access to like emojis and badges, so I can easily see you when you comment or ask questions and things like that throughout, any videos and all of that on my channel. That way I can answer them pretty quickly. So it kind of just gives you priority access and early access to videos too. And then there's a second membership option where I do the live garden classes. So I moved that under the membership because, to be honest, it's a lot of work to put together a class. I like doing them, but it's a lot of work. So I wanted to offer that more as like a membership type thing for supporting my channel. I appreciate it because everything goes back into this garden, and the more that I can grow, the more I can show you guys and the more things I can teach. So that's the purpose behind all of those. And one of my members, I don't know if you're here, I see Empress, she's one of my members, but I had a member, I asked them, if you guys have any questions, let me know because I'm doing this live and I want to answer them. So Tron Bunny, if you're here, asked me a question about when and how to separate seedlings into larger containers, basically potting up type of questions, and they had rabbits. So first off, the easiest thing, the rabbits, that's a tough thing to handle. Rabbits, critters, they love to chew up everything. I live in an urban neighborhood. There's houses all over and I have a big privacy fence. So I don't have issues with critters like rabbits, but it definitely is a problem for the majority of people. And I would say you honestly, you have to block out your garden, build a fence, something. Like, there's really no other way around it. As far as potting up and that kind of thing. So my gardening style with regards to that is a little bit different. I hate potting up. I don't do it. I don't like to waste my time potting up. Most people, when they start seeds, right, they will get smaller little containers and start up all their seeds because you're worried that not all of them are going to germinate. And then the ones that do germinate, you'll pot those up later. Well, if you have good quality seed to begin with, they're going to germinate. If you have a good seed sowing technique and, you know, setup and all that, which I have a YouTube video that shows my whole like seed sowing setup and all this stuff, they're going to germinate. Okay. So, for me, germination is not a problem. So I just go ahead and sow things in an appropriate size container to begin with. And it has started sprinkling rain. I really don't want to have to end this. I'm okay for now, but I might have to go. Anyways, so I would rather sow seeds in something that is a larger size pot to begin with to avoid the entire potting up thing. Plus, when you pot up, you are risking damaging the roots as well, which is going to cause transplant shock and set the seedling back a little bit. So for example, tomatoes, bigger crops like that, or squashes, loofah, I just go ahead and sow seeds for those in a solo cup. It's really starting to rain. I'm going to go underneath some of my trees. Maybe that will help a little bit. So 1 second, guys. It literally just started raining as soon as I go live with you. But anyways, it's raining pretty bad. This helps a little bit. I'm under my moringa trees. Guys, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. So yeah, don't sow things in tiny little containers, eggshell cartons, that kind of thing. Just sow seeds in an appropriate size container that will house that seedling for the duration of its growth. I'm getting so scared. Hi guys. Yeah, you know what? Let me take it to my porch. I really wanted to show you guys my garden. So 1 second here. I really wanted to show you guys like what I've been planting for fall, because September is a huge fall planting month for me. But it might be dark in here. I don't know. We'll see. Hey, that works. Thank you, person who suggested that. Sometimes I don't think. But anyways, this is my covered patio. All my plants, seed sowing setup, all of that. So actually it looks great in here. Thank you for telling me that. So yeah, I really wanted to show you guys my garden so that you can see kind of like my process for planting up fall, because I've already started planting a whole bunch of things, and just kind of the structure of it, how I'm planning it, whatever. But hopefully maybe it'll stop raining soon. That's what always happens here in Florida. It rains like for a few minutes and then it goes. One time I did do a live and it started like lightning and all of that, and I had to stop. So if that happens, I will have to stop. And another thing about live streaming on YouTube is I have to scroll through the comments to find your questions. If you have a question, please guys, am I still sideways? I am just now seeing the the comments about me being sideways. Okay, thank you for confirming that. I have to scroll through the comments to start from the beginning. So if you ask a question, please put your garden zone and state. So anyways, I'm reading Steve's comment about cucumbers and pilkworms. Yeah, There's no, for me here in Florida, if I'm growing cucumbers, melon, squash, I'm always going to get some pickle worms. It is part of growing them. They're luckily one of the easier pests to deal with, in my opinion. Just spray with some BT spray. It stands for Bacillus thuringiensis. It's considered organic. You don't need to apply that many times if you catch it early on, and you can kind of knock down that population of the pickleworms. And it also works for any other chewing type of insect as well. That's what I recommend. And so just keep up on it. If you see, chewed up leaves on your cucumber plants, start spraying immediately. If you let it go too long, then the population of the worms increases. You're gonna have to spray even more and that kind of thing. So early detection and treatment is the best thing you can do. I see another one from Ty also about the cucumber worms. Marion, your zone 10B. When to plant tomatoes. Okay, so I'm 10A, you're 10B, right? So you're about like a week behind me, or 2 weeks, 1 to 2 weeks behind me, seriously. So I like to plant my tomatoes, transplant them into the garden, usually the very first weekend of September. So Labor Day weekend is my target date. I start seeds about mid-July though, so that I have my nice big transplants ready to go. This year, I started using grow lights. This is one of them right here, actually, Mars Hydro grow lights. And I had my tomatoes all in here. But they grew so fast with these grow lights that they were ready around August 20th. So I had to plant them. So that is totally fine. You can plant them towards the end of August, or at least, by the very first week of September, no later than that. So you should have planted them by now. If not, hurry up and get them in. So the issue with planting them like in August is that this is still our rainy season. More rain means more pathogens, powdery mildew, pests, all this stuff. So I didn't want to plant them in August, around August 20th, but I had to, because if not, they'll get root bound and that will set them back as well. So I just had to be extra monitoring them. We're getting a lot of rain even now in early September. It should start slowing down, but the last couple days have been insane. My backyard is mud. It's horrific right now. But yeah, and I've been spraying with 1 cup of hydrogen peroxide per gallon of water to treat the tomato plants and make sure that they're not going to get all these diseases. New Zealand spinach is pretty heat tolerant. Sorry, I'm reading Yvonne's question. It is pretty heat tolerant. It is definitely more heat tolerant than regular lettuce. But I find that, I don't know what state you're located in, but in the hotter climates, anything that you eat or grow to eat its leaves, they do much better if grown in a spot that gets bright morning sun with afternoon shade. They don't need 8 hours of sun like a fruiting plant does, like a tomato, because you're just eating the leaves. So give them, partial shade. That helps out a lot. I've had my New Zealand spinach grow during the summer, but with complete total shade during the afternoon. And I'm zone 10A. All right, lots of people transplanting their tomatoes. I mean, you're right on point by this point to be transplanting them. I did not want to postpone, guys. Sorry, scrolling through my seed starting. This is basically all of it here. Getting caught up still. Roy, you have mushrooms coming up in your raised beds. That is totally fine. I see that all the time, that question. People will find, mushrooms sprouting up in the soil, in their mulch, and grow bags. Mushrooms is a good indicator of soil biology. It's good for your soil to have mycorrhizae in it. I don't know if it's the type of mushrooms you can eat. Your pets probably shouldn't be eating it either. but it's just a good indicator of soil health. I just leave them alone. Just let them be. They'll spread around maybe. It's totally fine. It's not bad for your plants. Can I recommend any blueberries for South Texas? My best advice I can give anyone, no matter where you're located, when it comes to choosing the correct variety of any kind of fruiting tree, like peaches, blueberries, you know, whatever, go to your local nurseries, not your big box stores, not like, you know, Home Depot, whatever. They carry just the general varieties that do well, you know, that grow around the United States, not the specific ones for your area. So if you go to a local nursery, they are pulling from the varieties bred for your area. Texas has, I believe Texas A&M University does a lot of plant breeding and research and all of that, and they've released a lot of varieties that do well in Texas. Same thing here in Florida. A lot of our Florida universities, like the University of Florida, constantly they're breeding new varieties that do well in your specific climate. So that is the best thing for you to do. Go to a local nursery and go select, you know, whatever they recommend, because those are the ones that are going to grow well in your specific area. The other thing you can do is research your cold chill hours for your area. I forget the name of the website, but there's a website, you put in your zip code and it will tell you how many cold chill hours you get every winter season. That's basically the amount of hours that fall, I think it's 42 degrees Fahrenheit, how many hours during your winter season stay below that, because certain fruit trees require a certain amount of cold chill hours to break winter dormancy, wake up in spring, start flowering, and then produce fruit. If they don't get enough cold chill hours, they won't break dormancy, they won't produce for you properly. So that's important to know as well, so you buy the correct variety. So depending on where you are in Texas, you might get the same amount of cold chill hours as me here in Florida, so some of those Florida varieties might do very well for you. I have to buy like low chill hour type of plants, so I'm always looking at low chill hour peaches, blueberries, you know, whatever, to make sure that those are going to fruit for me. So if you have like this fruit tree in your yard that is mature, should be producing, and you can't figure out why, do a little bit of research on that variety if you know the name, and check the cold chill hours. Maybe it's just not suited for your area. How long should I wait for my ground cherry to sprout before I reseed? I don't know what you mean, maybe succession sowing. Usually with like ground cherries, once I see my first like group of them start flowering, then I'll go ahead and start seeds for the next group if you want to succession sow them that way. April says she has Japanese beetles. You know, I honestly haven't had Japanese beetles yet, so I cannot say, you know, exactly what I would do, but I do know that beetles are a really tough kind of insect to deal with. I would look into some of the sprays that have pyrethrin in it, because those will target some of the more harder shell type of insects that are really hard to deal with, like the stink bugs, squash bugs, all that kind of thing, because nothing else really works on them. Also, you want to make sure you're planting your crops at the correct time of year. You know, like, for example, for me here in Florida, it is so hot during the summer. Summertime is not the correct time for me to be growing tomatoes. And I know that is definitely the opposite of like everyone else in the state north of me. You guys, it's spring, summer, and fall. That is a great tomato season. For me, it's the opposite. It's fall, winter, and spring. If I try to force and grow a tomato during my summer, which is out of season, it's going to get decimated by every single pest, disease you can think of, because I'm trying to grow something during the wrong time of year. So depending on what crop you're trying to grow, maybe there's a better time of year that you can plant that in your garden, to where naturally there's less incidence of Japanese beetles to begin with. So it just depends what you're trying to grow. Or there could be other varieties of that same crop that handle that pest a lot better as well. Yep, those grow lights definitely speed up my seedling growth, like ridiculously. Before I started using grow lights for many years, I used shop lights, the 5,000 Kelvin or higher shop lights. And that's okay. It's better than nothing. Like, I really think people underestimate how much light like seedlings really need. Those the seedlings under a window in your house, that is nowhere near, I guarantee you, nowhere near enough light for a plant to like really grow. So you have to supplement with something. Shop lights are really inexpensive. That's why I use them for many years. But my friend had one grow light and I just tested it out. Literally the time it took for my seedlings to get to size was like cut in half. And so I've slowly been getting more and more. Like, I'm obsessed with them. They actually work. There's a huge difference in the health of my seedlings. Like my tomato, their stems are just thicker and fatter instead of longer and skinnier and weaker. So it really does make a huge difference when you start using like official grow lights. All right, so Liz is asking, you're trying to keep your green pepper plants growing as perennials. Should you prune them? I have tried pruning and not pruning and topping and not topping. And quite honestly, I don't prune them or top them anymore. I just leave them be. I feel like pepper plants grow so slowly that when you prune them or top them, you're really setting them back. Even for me in a very warm climate with lots of, months in a row of warmth for a pepper plant to really take off and grow, they grow so slow. So I don't like to prune or top them. If you want to keep them as perennial, did you say what zone you're in? 9B. So you get a little bit colder than me for sure. You might get some frost and some plant damage and enough to kill a pepper plant. So if you're expecting a cold front, anything that drops below, I would say 40 is, anything that drops below like 55, whatever, on a pepper is going to definitely shut that plant down. It's just going to stay like that. Now, if you get freezing temperatures, now it's going to get damaged. So you're going to have to take it out if it's in the ground, put it in a pot, bring it indoors. There's lots of YouTube videos showing how you can winterize your pepper plants. I'm zone 10A, so not that much, just a little bit warmer than you. I don't like having to do all that work of yanking them out, bringing them indoors. Well, I don't want to do that. So I have planted all of my peppers in grow bags, so that way if I need to move them, I can just move them that way instead of having to dig them out of the ground. Or I can lump them all together, bring them in my patio here, because I cover this whole thing with like plastic sheeting to keep it all insulated and warm during the winter. That helps a lot more and just makes it a little bit easier and efficient. But I also grow a ton of pepper plants, so that it's a lot. It's just, in my opinion, it's just easier to grow them in a container where you can kind of put them together, throw something over it. Those couple nights that we get where it actually gets freezing and can cause damage. Last winter, I didn't get a single freezing anything frost. So we don't know what this winter's going to be like. So I don't know, but I'm just going to throw a sheet over it. If I think it's really going to get cold for multiple hours, I might scoot in underneath some heat mats and keep it like warm and toasty, just a little bit, just enough to prevent that damage. And they are perennials. Peppers and eggplants are perennials as long as something doesn't kill them, like a pest or disease or the cold. Do I start brassicas on my porch or inside the house? Inside the house only. If you live in a normal climate with seasons, I don't know what it's like outside for you all right now, like in states north of me. It is still 95 degrees Fahrenheit here, in the middle of the day. At night, it's like hitting 80s, so it's starting to cool down. Because starting in June, it's like 90s at night, so it just never cools down. So I'm starting to feel that change in weather. I can feel that cooler temperature coming through, but it's still way, way too hot for anything in the brassicas family. If you're like me and it's that hot outside, I would say 80 and above, 85 and above. Do not plant anything in the brassicas family outside. It will stunt their growth. They'll stay super tiny and they might not ever recover from that. So yeah, I took a mini greenhouse, not shelves like this, but I have a mini greenhouse that I just stick in the corner of my house for, you know, the couple weeks it takes to grow my seedlings. And I have some trays of, you know, my brassicas there. I already started those in August with the plan to transplant them in October when my max average high temperature finally falls below 85 degrees Fahrenheit. That happens for me in the month of October. And I have a ton of YouTube videos. My goal is to have a video tutorial on every single different kind of crop. So I already have one on broccoli, cabbage, Napa cabbage, cauliflower. There's a lot of tutorials on every single crop that you might want to grow that we'll go into detail, a lot of detail about the whole process from seed to harvest. Your tomatoes aren't that big. It could be your lights. I would say tomatoes, you need a very strong light source. You need to start fertilizing them when they start growing their first set of true leaves, and they need warmth. If you're sowing them outdoors, like I sowed all my tomatoes out here, I didn't add heat mats because it's already really warm, you know, in my porch. So that wasn't necessary. But if you're sowing them indoors, put some heat mats. You want to keep that soil warm. And I do have a tutorial all about how to sow tomato seeds. And it shows you that whole process and everything. Oh, Empress, I see now. I don't know how far back I am with the comments, so I'm trying to catch up. Empress, I see your comment about your tomato plants and leaf miners. That is another very common question I see all the time. Leaf miners is, I don't know if it's like a fly or a larva. It's some kind of larval stage of some insect, but it's in between the layers of the leaves. So it's not something that you can spray because they're protected through being in the middle of the layer of the leaf itself. So no spray is going to work on them. But it's mainly just cosmetic damage. You know, people kind of freak out about it and they'll start pulling off all the leaves and trying to prevent it from spreading. I mean, they're going to spread, especially if you're in Florida or a hot climate, they're going to spread. It's just cosmetic damage. I've never seen any of my plants ever get so much leaf miner damage that it actually took the plant out or affected it in any way. So I always tell people, don't worry about it, just leave it alone. Like, don't take the leaves off, don't spray with anything, just leave it alone. Leaf miners really don't matter. A good setup for your ground cherries to take the plants with you when you move. I'm kind of confused by the question. If you mean like transporting plants, if you're planting them now and you know you're going to move later, I highly recommend that you plant your stuff in like containers or grow bags that are easy to move. Choose like a 10-gallon size grow bag or something, because then it won't be super heavy when it's full of soil and that kind of thing, so that you can move it. Any tips for growing perennials in a rental space? Make sure it's okay with your landlord first, okay? Don't buy all the supplies and plant all this stuff and just find out they don't want you doing that there. If you are ever at a place where you cannot grow stuff, go join a community garden. I joined a community garden when I lived in Texas for a couple years. I lived in an apartment and I had absolutely no place to grow anything. And that was one of the best, honestly, experiences of my life. And I learned so much from that, from the other gardeners, and it transformed my life, joining a community garden. So, but anyways, check with your landlord what is allowed. And then I would focus on containers, green stock garden towers, just nothing in the ground, because what's the point? If you got to move, now you just built up all this in-ground stuff, you got to fix it, your landlord will probably make you take it out and put it back the way it was before. Like, there's a lot of stuff, so I would just focus on more container gardening type stuff. Can you mix BT with peroxide? No, I would not. I would not mix it with hydrogen peroxide. BT is a bacteria. And I'm pretty sure if you put hydrogen peroxide on that, it will kill the bacteria, because hydrogen peroxide disinfects, cleans, kills a lot of different types of pathogens. So don't mix the two. I would spray with your hydrogen peroxide spray first to like clean and disinfect the leaves. Then maybe the next day come in with your BT. That's what I would do. Oh, Yvonne's question about what do I recommend for a bed that has root knot nematodes? Like, what can you plant? To be honest with you, nothing except for marigolds. Root knot nematodes are a little microscopic worm, parasitic worm. They attack the roots of plants. That's what they eat. And when they attack it, they damage them up and it creates all those nodules. To get rid of root knot nematodes, I'm going to be honest with you, it's not easy and there's not one solution. Like, it usually takes a variety of combination of different treatments working together to try and solve it. I have not had a really bad incidence of root knot nematodes because I kind of like just put it down. So like behind me here, I have a couple beds and I started noticing root knot nematodes when I planted squash there. I really noticed they go for squash plants and tomato plants more than anything else in my garden. So keep that in mind when you're growing those two crops. Be on the lookout, check up on them, that kind of thing, and catch it early. Now you got to starve the root knot nematodes out. They eat roots, so that means do not grow anything in there except for marigolds, and they have to be French marigolds, I think it is, right? French marigolds, the French type of marigolds. I don't think marigolds will kill them all or be an immediate fix. A lot of people say, you know, just plant marigolds and you're fine. No, that's not the only way to deal with it. You want to starve them out. So either just plant marigolds in that bed for like 6 months, so that's the only food source they have, or shut down the whole bed, put a couple layers down of solarization type plastic. What I use is black weed blocker material because I use that a lot in my garden anyways to help me manage all the weeds. So I put the bed I shut it down, pulled everything out, put a couple layers of the weed blocker material, and just there's no food now for the whatever root knot nematodes are in there to be eating. You could also try cover cropping. There's lots of different kinds of plants that people suggest for cover cropping. So that means you're not shutting down that bed, but you're just going to, you know, grow a cover crop in there. Sorghum sundengrass, if I'm saying that correctly, is a very popular nematocidal cover crop that a lot of people like to use. However, it's a grass. It's really, really big. As a homeowner, I don't have a tractor or like heavy machinery or anything like that to really manage that type of a cover crop effectively, or to make it possible, I guess, for me. And I know I'm not the only one. So that's why I personally haven't gone that route yet. But yeah, I shut it down. I put a couple layers of that weed blocker material, and I have a small garden. So shutting down one garden bed is a big deal. That's a major, you know, growing space for me. So I took some grow bags and I put that on top, and I just grow bagged gardened for, you know, a season or two on top of that. Now, root knot nematodes can transfer. They can come up through, you know, the layers of your weed blocker material into the grow bags. I knew that, and I did it anyways because at least, you know, I got a season or two out of, you know, growing on the grow bags for a little bit. So that's kind of what I did. Also, I personally have not tried this yet, but a lot of people say adding beneficial nematodes into the soil helps a lot because they eat the bad nematodes. So I believe it's like a powder. You mix it with water and you kind of drench the soil with that. Again, I've never done it myself, but I have looked at the prices of those powders, and they're kind of expensive, but in my opinion, but especially if you have a lot of garden beds that are affected. But everyone seems to say it works. So, you know, maybe if you want to try something that yes, it costs a little bit of money, but it works, that might be what you have to do. Someone asked, your roselle, the hibiscus leaves are browning and curling at the top, but the bottom part is still bushy and doing well. So did you cut the top off? It's not a root problem, because if it was the root, the whole entire plant would be affected. It kind of maybe sounds like either a critter, insect or something, maybe bore through the branch at the top, and that's why the top half is dying, or it got damaged or broken in some kind of way. I would just cut that off. If it's dying, it's just pulling nutrients and stuff away from the rest of the plant. It's useless at that point. So just cut it off, fertilize it to help it, put on new growth and continue on its way. Due to health issues, you didn't start your tomatoes and eggplant seeds here in Central Florida. What to do? At this point, I would say you can buy transplants and hurry up and plant some in now. It is definitely too late to start them from seed and go that route. I already planted all of mine. I should start harvesting like in November and December. If I don't get a really bad cold front, I just keep harvesting more tomatoes even in January and stuff. I will sow another succession of tomato plants, usually like mid-December or early December, to transplant around like January 22nd, something like that. I know that gets really specific, but yeah, January 22nd. And that's my next crop of tomatoes, peppers, eggplants to get a harvesting before summer arrives. So if you missed your mark now, that's fine. Take advantage and just grow a whole bunch of cool seeds and crops. And then in December, start your seeds for all those things and plant them in January. Mary's asking about blackberries. You're unsure how much space and support they need. Blackberry plants are huge. Okay, I sell different varieties, depends on the time of year. Blackberry plants and raspberry plants. And I sell them, they're like this big. Those things literally will take over in a year. They grow super fast. They grow in my native Florida sandy soil with barely any care, like just giant, okay? The vines are gonna get like 20 feet long in all directions. Like they really go crazy, okay? Which is great if you want to grow your own food and all that. That's the kind of plant you want. But if you have a small garden, you gotta figure it out. So my blackberries and stuff like that, I have like 2 plants growing on one cattle panel trellis. So that's 16 feet long by 4 foot wide, I think they are. And they will overtake that whole thing like quick. So same thing with grapes as well. They are very big plants. So I don't recommend that you grow them on an arbor. Like I have my muscadine grapes growing on it's like an 8x8 arbor thingy I made with like posts. It's a square, and that's annoying when you're growing food on there, because to harvest from the top and pull stuff down is exhausting. And you're gonna miss fruit because you can't get in there, like, so if you want to use like a cattle panel trellis, you want to set it at like, height around here, not something super tall, so that way you can comfortably pick off the fruit for those types of like vining, fruiting types of crops. You don't have to use a cattle panel trellis though. There's so many ideas on different ways that you can, grow those kinds of crops on. So just, do a search on YouTube and see what works for you. Roy is asking, does my husband or my kids help you with my garden? I am an extremely busy person. I am an extreme type A person. It's very hard for me to sit still. I have a full-time job besides all this that I do with my YouTube channel, my nursery business, and the seed nursery and plant business that I have. I work in the pharmacy industry. I hope to quit that one day. It's an okay job, but it's not, it doesn't fulfill me like what actually makes me happy, and that's gardening, growing food, being out in nature, that kind of thing. I do have a husband. He is allergic to like everything you can think of: grass, trees, pollen, dust, everything. Next time I get married, I'll have to make them do a allergy test. So, because that means he wants to be outside with me, but he literally will get sick. So, he'll come out and like, hang out with me and stuff. And when the weather's nice, we'll sit in the hammock and like, enjoy the garden and everything. But to be honest, like he can't get in there. My son doesn't have allergies, but he's definitely a inside kind of person. But he does help me every now and then. Like, I'm like, hey, you want to go harvest loofah with me or whatever? And he'll come out and harvest loofah. He likes to peel them, shake the seeds out, and help. We make loofah soap bars out of them and stuff. So it just depends what it is. He helps me with the chickens. We have not here. I have chickens and bees on my aunt's property. She has a couple acres of land over there because I live in a little HOA community, so I can't have none of that here. And actually, we're expanding a huge garden over there because my goal is to stop buying food from the groceries for a lot of health reasons and stuff. I want to grow all of my own food and avoid as much processed chemicals and all of that as possible. So to do that, I need more space, and we are trying to figure out how to water the garden. That's been like the biggest issue over there. She doesn't have a well that I can access or even electricity. So I just now got electricity installed, and she does have a big pond though, a natural, like a pond. So I have a pump that is hopefully going to pull water out of that pond through a filter and then through my drip irrigation system so I can build over there. So that's kind of like where we're stuck right now. I hope the pump works, because if it doesn't, I really don't know what to do. But besides my husband and my son, my family's from the Dominican Republic. My aunt, she also loves gardening. My grandpa had farmland when he used to live there. So we all get together there and they help me out a lot. Like, we just like doing this together. They help me build like the chicken coop and like everything. They're helping me install the pump right now. So I am very fortunate that they like those things like me. So I do have help, because there's no way one person, me, can do all of this that I do. So all right, you're in Orlando. Is it too late to start seed or transplant outdoors before winter? Absolutely not. It is the best time right now. September, the entire month of September is planting, and October for the best season for us here in Florida, which is fall, winter, and spring. So I don't know if you've seen my September garden guide on my YouTube channel. I do one every single month that goes through all the different crops and stuff that you can start planting now. So there's a ton of ideas there for you. I would wait until October to do the more cool season stuff. And obviously I'll talk about that with the October garden guide when that comes out. So yeah, go check that out. There's tons of ideas there for you. There's plenty to be planting right now. And some of them as well starting from seed. Like you missed your window to start, tomatoes from seed, but right now I'm starting all sorts of herbs, flowers, greens and stuff like that, but indoors. There's still a lot you can do. SB is saying can't find strawberry starts. It's not time yet. If you're in Florida, strawberry season planting really starts happening in October and November. That's when all the big farms here in Florida start planting up their fields and that kind of thing. And that's when you'll start seeing the local nurseries and people like me start releasing out strawberry bare roots to the public for purchase. So yeah, maybe some places have started pre-orders. Like you might want to check out Practical Plants. I know he was doing strawberry and garlic, seed garlic pre-orders like last month, I think. I don't know if he's sold out by now, and I believe he only ships within Florida. But you can check him out for now. A lot of people are asking me if I'm going to have strawberry bare roots this season. I don't know yet until probably the beginning of October, because literally I go to the big strawberry farm who sells them to me like wholesale, because they are like the biggest, most beautiful strawberry bare roots I've ever seen. They're huge and really good quality. Like, this is what the farms are using. So I buy a huge, bulk order of that. I take what I need, for my garden, and then the rest, I will put them on my website so you guys can get some. So I don't know this year if I'll be able to get some, because some years there have been strawberry shortages. So I don't know. And I don't know what variety yet either. It just depends whatever the farms are doing. So more to come. I do have an email group. If you look in the description of this, there should be a link there, like join if you haven't already, because I will be sending an email out as soon as I know, like, if I'm going to get strawberry bare roots this year. Can you start super hot pepper seeds in September? I started my peppers in like June and July to be planting them now. If you start them from seed now, they're going to be like maturing when it's cold, and that's not good. It's going to totally shut down their growth. If we get a cold front, that's not going to be good for them. Unless you can bring them like indoors for that. I would just wait until the early part of December to sow seeds for them indoors. So that way you can plant them like at the end of September or the very early of, I'm not September. Sow them at the very beginning of December. They take like 3 months to get to size. They take forever. So that way you can plant them out like in March when things are, warm. It's not going to get cold anymore. At least for us here in, zone 10A, it shouldn't be getting cold for you at that point. Is it too late to plant broccoli seeds and Seminole pumpkin seeds West Central Florida? I would say for broccoli, you've missed your mark, except for Piracicaba Brazilian sprouting broccoli, which is like my favorite anyways for any hot climate gardener. And I have a whole YouTube video dedicated on just that plant because I love it so much. So Piracicaba Brazilian sprouting broccoli, you can start some from seed right now if you wanted to, or direct sow them from seed in October if you want to go that route, because they grow so fast and it's not a heading type of broccoli. So you're not going to have the whole, if it gets warm all of a sudden, your head of broccoli stops growing and now it just flowers and you don't get a head of broccoli anymore. So Piracicaba, I would say you can do. That's the only one I recommend though at this time. And Seminole pumpkins, I planted mine at the end of July, or direct sowed at the end of July. So they grow, they get production before things really start getting cold. So I want to say no on the Seminole pumpkin, just because you're going to lose out on a lot of harvest time. It's going to get cold. They're going to get shut down. Unless we have a warm winter, then you might be okay, actually. If we have a warm winter like what we had last year, because none of my stuff got died or damaged, nothing. But we don't know that. So maybe you want to try. If you have space, go ahead and try and hope maybe we have a warm winter. Oh, the tiny green caterpillars are probably pickle worms. Just use BT spray. Olivia's asking how I'm growing. Am I still growing shampoo ginger? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I sell the plants. I grow them. We have large patches at my aunt's house because they just kind of they spread like crazy over there. And I have a patch in the front of my house here that I have to control. I also grow some in grow bags. So yeah, I love that plant. I have a YouTube video all about that. Actually, I need to do a new one. It's in the works, just an updated one. But I absolutely love shampoo ginger. It's a clearish type of liquid. It has a floral, gingery type of fragrance, very light. It's not something extremely strong, but it's really nice. It is used as a natural shampoo. It's not going to suds up like soap, like that much bubbles like that, but it has cleansing properties. So a lot of people use it as like a natural hair shampoo. It's non-toxic, so you can use it on kids, dogs, pets, whatever. If they accidentally ingest it, you're fine. It's not toxic. A lot of people, like Hawaiian people, will just rub it straight on their skin as a moisturizer. I mean, there's so many things you can do with it. So yeah, I definitely grow a lot of shampoo ginger. Georgina is saying you want to grow potatoes, but you're having trouble ordering seed potatoes. Yeah, it gets hard because the seed potato companies will put out the seed potatoes when it's the correct time of year for states that are like in a normal climate, not a hot climate like the southern parts of the United States. They'll release all that stuff out when it's time for them to plant the potatoes, but it's not time for us to plant the potatoes. So they tend to be like sold out by this time. Honestly, you just have to do a Google search. I start noticing them like seed potatoes and Tractor Supply like in January and February. If you can find them in January and pop them in real quick, that's great. I have tried growing them or just getting started with them in February, and it's not good. Like, it just gets way too hot, at least for me here in Florida, to harvest anything decent. So it can be a struggle for sure, trying to acquire, you know, seed potato at the correct time of year. Another good resource is join as many, you know, Facebook gardening groups as possible for your state and your zone, and ask, because sometimes they know like local places that have them. My favorite seed starting trays. I can't pick just one because I use about 3 different sizes. I'm trying to see if I have examples. One second. So this is a bunch of moringa, because I sell moringa plants on my website. So I started a whole bunch. This is, let me pop it out of here. This is a 72 cell seed tray. So I use this for smaller greens, flowers, herbs, starting small plants like this. I sell a lot of smaller size plants because it's easier on shipping and it's less, you know, costs for you guys. So that way you can stock up on, you know, a bunch of plants. So this is a 72 cell seed tray. I love these because I can plant a lot at once, especially with something like flowers and herbs, where I fill my garden with that stuff. So just being able to plant rows and rows and rows helps me like get a whole bunch of plants at one time. So this is what I use for smaller things, or individual little starts like this, or cuttings. Like if I take cuttings of plants or whatever, I dip that in rooting hormone and then put it in one of these. And this fits perfectly in a 10 by 20 tray. I use the ones without holes because then I can fill this up with water, and then the seedlings can just absorb water from the bottom up. So that's what I use primarily. And I do have an Amazon link. It should be in the description. It should say something like, this is all the products and stuff I use, where I put the same seed trays and all of that I like. I like the really thick plastic kind, because if you get like the regular ones, they last like 6 months or less for me because it's so hot and humid and all that here in Florida. So I spend a little bit more on getting the like really thick plastic ones. So this is what I use for some things. And then for bigger crops like tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, squash, loofah, I just get, trying to find it. 1 second, guys. I just get a solo cup. So I buy a big bag of solo cups and I cut little holes out at the bottom, and I reuse these for many years. So I don't have a tomato right now, but anyways, that will house a bigger crop item like a tomato plant, pepper, loofah, whatever, the entire duration of its growth to the transplant ready stage. So I don't pot up because I hate wasting my time potting up. So solo cups, 72 cell seed trays, and depending on what I'm growing, sometimes I will plant stuff in a 4-inch pot, like brassicas, kale, onions, that kind of thing. I will use a 4-inch pot, and that's it. That's the 3 different sizes I use to grow anything, or grow things from seed or whatever. What am I growing in my green stalks for fall? So green stalks are great for smaller crops. So anything that I'm planning on growing that's smaller, I will shove it in there. And onions, and I also plan on growing garlic in it this year too. Because if I can shove all those things in my green stalks, which I have 6 of them. I'm looking at them right now. I have 6 of them. I absolutely love green stalk garden towers. They have really helped me maximize my garden and the space. So I shove all the smaller stuff in that so that I have more space in the garden to plant the bigger stuff. So I haven't got to planting them up yet because it's still a little too hot for my area. But in October, once things cool down, I think I'll dedicate one entire stalk to lettuce, another one to miscellaneous greens, whatever, you know, Swiss chard, arugula, all the rest of them. One for onions, maybe 2 for onions, because I really love growing onions. And I grew a bunch of onions in a green stalk garden tower last season. I have a YouTube video showing my harvest, and they grew big, even in a green star garden tower, like huge. And this year I think I'm going to try garlic in them just to kind of see how that goes. And I also want to plant bush beans in another one. So yeah, trust me, those things are going to be full. Actually, I need to plant my bush beans now. September is when you plant your bush beans. October is when you plant your cooler, season greens and stuff like that. I've got a couple questions about whiteflies. That is a really hard pest. I'm going to just tell you right now. They suck, okay? And they literally do suck the juices out of your plants. So usually they exist when there's like humid, wet conditions. So like I get them every year on my pepper plants during the summer when it's raining like every day because the leaves are constantly wet and they just start, I don't know, they always go after my pepper plants. But this year I moved my pepper plants and I put them shade cloth. It was the first time I used shade cloth and it actually works. It actually helped my peppers. They look very good. And I think it also just kept them more dry and also kept the plants from stressing out as much, which helps their immune systems as well. And I've had no whiteflies on them this year. I also have some of my pepper plants growing in grow bags, which keeps the soil more on the dry side. The pepper plants I had growing in ground where the soil was getting constantly wet because of the rain I get every day, those were the ones that got whiteflies. So the ones in the pots, they're just overall just in more drier conditions. You're in a greenhouse, obviously you're not getting rain then, but I don't know if it's just humid in there or what, or where you're located. Where are you located? Because in Florida, I don't garden with a greenhouse, like at all. I don't need a greenhouse. That's the opposite. Usually you need a greenhouse if you're in like a cold environment. So that's a little different than what I'm used to is growing cucumbers in a greenhouse. I don't have to do that here. But if you have a greenhouse, I'm going to say it's either really humid or you just don't have good air circulation and that kind of thing. Whiteflies is a soft-bodied insect. They can be killed by spinosad, which kills soft-bodied insects on contact. But you got to spray really well, like underneath those leaves, turn up your nozzle, and consistently and often and all that. It's annoying. And if you have a bad enough infestation, you might just have to pull out all the leaves and just take the leaves off or whatever, terminate the crop maybe to prevent further spread and just kind of stop their, population growth and spread. Someone's asking me if the plants behind me are cool weather crops. No. A lot of these are my nursery plants because I'm a nursery too. I sell them on my website. So this is my mini nursery. This is my little porch. I'm a small, tiny little backyard nursery person. So yeah, these are my plants. So if you buy stuff from my website, this is where it came from. But I do grow like my stuff here too. It just depends on the time of year. Like I had all my tomatoes out here. That's why I have my grow lights up here too. Well, the grow lights help the nursery plants too, but my tomatoes, peppers, all of that kind of stuff, I had them here, but I've already planted them. My cool season stuff that I've started so far are things in the brassicas family, and that's strictly indoors because it's way too hot for me to be growing that stuff outside. What strength of light do I keep my Mars light on? I put them all the way on high. I don't change it. I just put them on high. But these are like heat tolerant, tropical. I mean, it depends on the fruiting trees, the full sun stuff. So they take that full light and they're fine. I just turn them on in the morning. Like I have them all connected into, well, some of them are chain linked because you can chain them. So that way you just hit one button and they all turn on. So I will turn them on in the morning and then I'll turn them off at night. Like that's just what I do. Oh, your seedlings are burning. Sorry, I just saw that part of your question. If your seedlings are burning, usually what that looks like is the leaves start to turn like white or get blotches of white, and then they finally just like burn. And that commonly can happen with like peppers. I've had that happen before. If that's the case, adjust the height, like take the light a little bit further away from the plant. Maybe also reduce the time that light is on. Um, sorry, it's a lot going on. Holy Spirit, activate. I'm reading all of what you're saying. Yellowing on the leaves. Normally that is the first thing right off the bat that I think of is overwatering. That will cause yellowing of the leaves. If you're not overwatering, then I would think nitrogen, and you need to fertilize your seedlings. I fertilize all my seedlings. Once they have the first set of true leaves, I use Fox Farms Grow Big. And that's what I use with my seedlings, and I don't have an issue with them being yellow. The tomato plants have bumps on the leaves. I would have to see what you're talking about, because tomato plants do have bumps on them. Like, I have seen people, like, especially on the trunk or the base of the stem, they'll get bumpy. They're root nodes, actually. And that's completely normal. It might look weird, but that is normal. So I'm not really sure if yours is normal or not. And again, yellowing leaves, I would think either too much water or it needs nitrogen. As you guys can tell, I'm still scrolling through all of the comments. I don't know how far back I am. Do I ever use tomato cuttings? No. I like to start all mine from seed for fresh plants. I have a feeling I am so far back, because I see your answers or responses to the things I've talked about pretty far back. I'm going to scoot to the front. If I missed your question, ask it again if I missed it, because I have to, like, get caught up here a little bit. Georgina, I see you started your first green stock with all dwarf varieties. You're doing tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, zucchini, some herbs. That sounds awesome. That sounds great. I also, I grew peppers in my green stalks just fine. They all did great, even the bigger size peppers. The tomatoes, so I planted a bunch of micro dwarfs. Those did great. I did plant some dwarfs. They did not do very good. I thought and I have the larger, deeper pocket green stalk, garden towers. I thought the dwarfs would do okay, because they are more smaller, compact plants, but I feel like their roots needed more space. They just did not produce anywhere near like what I get when I plant them in the ground. So I personally don't want to be growing them in there again. It's possible, but the production just wasn't that great. I mean, if you have literally no space and green stock is your only choice, then go ahead and do it. But I could see a real big difference there. Sorry, reading comments. Timing on seed potatoes for 10B. You want to get them in the ground like November, December, somewhere around there, so that you're harvesting before March, hopefully, when things start getting really, really hot. Holy Spirit, I don't know. Like, I've answered anything I can think of that would cause yellowing. I don't know how often you're watering. It sounds like you're fertilizing. You've got the lights. If multiple different types of crops are turning yellow, I would suspect maybe the watering. A lot of times people will ask me, like, what is your water schedule? I don't have one. Like, that's not how it works. How much water your plant needs changes every season. It depends on your soil. It depends on the type of plant. Like, really learn to water when it needs. So let the soil dry out a little bit before you water again. Not dry out so much that now the plant is stressed out and wilting. So you just kind of have to learn that perfect, like, in between. So I don't have a fixed schedule, because I look at my plants and then I decide if they need to be watered at that point. Overwatering is, I would say, the number one thing that I see people, like, why your plants are yellowing, rotting, dying, that kind of thing. Oh, yours are micros? If you're planting micro tomatoes in green stalks, that's great. They're gonna do great. Someone asked if you can grow bell peppers now in September. I don't know. It depends on your zone. So if you're going to ask a question, please put your zone and state. For me, I'm in Florida, zone 10A. It's too late, like, to just be starting them from seed. They take like 3 months to get to size. They're really slow growers. So, excuse me. My goal is to get them in the ground, like the beginning of September or something like that, so that I can get a fall harvest before it gets kind of too cold for their liking. And if it's going to get cold, you got to bring them indoors, cover them up, protect them in some way. They are perennial plants as long as you can protect them from the cold. Roy said your wife would never let you start vegetables inside. My husband's the same way. He hates it. He hates it. I have to, though. You got to let me for a couple weeks, just, you know, just deal with it. And he does. So Jerry says, I want a moringa. I love moringa. I literally, the next week or two, I'm uploading a YouTube video on the fertilizer that I make with moringa. I have a couple trees, even in my small garden, because I use that plant probably more than any plant in my garden. I powderize it and I drink it, like I add it to my smoothies and stuff, because it's probably the world's best superfood, I think, in my opinion. It has so many nutrients, minerals, everything. That's a good source of plant protein. So I eat it. I feed it to my chickens. I will chop and drop all the leaves and like use it like mulch basically underneath plants, because it breaks down and releases those nutrients. You know, and then I make fertilizer with it too. So it's just if you're in a warm enough climate to grow moringa, you need to be growing moringa. Is it hard to grow and maintain grapes on the growing cycle? George Rodriguez question. No, grapes are one of the easiest fruiting plants you could possibly grow. Like, seriously, they don't need the best of soil. They don't have very many pest issues. If you're in the south, though, you cannot grow regular table grapes or like Concord grapes, because there's a disease in our soil. It's called Pierce's disease. So, but you can grow muscadine grapes, which is what I grow. And I have a video about that on my YouTube channel as well. And they grow crazy. I have 2 plants in my small garden. They're growing over an arbor that I have. They overtake the entire arbor. They're big plants. But off those 2 plants, I harvested like 27 pounds in my year. I don't know if it was year 2 or 3 of them growing in my garden. Between the 2 of them, like 27 pounds of grapes. And I turned that all into wine. I have to finish editing that wine video. And I made like, I think it was like 25 or 30 bottles of wine from all of that. It was insane. Like, just the abundance you can get from 2 plants, 2 muscadine grape plants. But you do have to cut them back, like when they go dormant in the winter, because that forces them to put on new growth, and they fruit on new growth only. So that's kind of the only thing you have to really do with them. Any tricks to starting seeds in peat pods? Don't use peat pods. I don't like them. I never use them. I don't know if you saw a little bit earlier when I showed the 3 container sizes or whatever that I use for growing anything, really. I don't use peat pots or any kind of those pots that people say you can plant in the ground and it will like decompose eventually. Because there's been some research and studies that show that those things don't really decompose as quickly and the plant kind of gets stuck in there. So yeah, I don't personally, I just don't use peat pot type of stuff. How to collect spearmint seeds. It's not hard. It's hard to clean it. But you're not selling seeds, so you don't need to worry so much about it being very clean. But you need to wait until the flowers are completely dried out, crispy, crinkly, and just take a little flower and go like this, and it will shred up into whatever seeds might be in there. And then take that and just you know, reseed into a new pot or throw it around the garden if you want to direct sow. But honestly, with mint, it's so much easier to take a cutting and root it from the cutting. Like, don't worry about the seeds. Take cuttings. Like, every winter, I will take a whole bunch of mint cuttings and root them indoors because they tend to get like damaged. They don't like the cold at all. So I root them indoors. Sorry, scrolling through messages here. Rices. You want to see my setup behind me and my 72 cell trays and I did show it, but I will show it to you again. Maybe you just joined or something. But yeah, for 72 cell seed trays, you can get these on Amazon. I do have a link in my description. You can find it under the seed starting. Let me pull it out. I like the 72 cell seed trays because I can grow a lot of plants at once, herbs, flowers, that kind of thing. Fill it up with seed starting mix. And then I pop them into a 10 by 20 tray. This is very standard, like 10 by 20 trays is a very standard like gardening supply type thing. I specifically like the one with no holes. So I just, you know, when I'm watering my plants here, I bring in the hose because this is my outdoor patio. So I bring in the hose with a soft, I don't know what the name of the sprayer, hose and sprayer, but a soft one. And then I fill it up, fill up the tray, and then put your seedling back in there, and then it will absorb the water from the bottom up. If I'm sowing in solo cups, which is what I like to use when I'm growing peppers, tomatoes, that kind of thing, or these 4-inch pots for some other things, I will also use these 10 by 20 trays because one of these fits like 18 of these. So I just line them all up here. And this is great because I grow a lot of plants, a lot, for my nursery business and for myself, you know, my own garden. So I can pick this whole thing up, bring it outside, water it that way. Like a lot of people that start seeds indoors, these trays will make it easier for you to take everything from indoors, bring it outside to water, fertilize, whatever you got to do. So I love these trays. Very helpful. 1 second while I put this back. And then I got this shelving unit from Sam's Club. I have a couple of them. It's a metal shelving unit. And I attached some grow lights to it, or shop lights, whatever you want to use, with some zip ties. And that's it. When it's winter time, this is a screen porch, and it does get a little too cold for a lot of these plants in here. I actually take big plastic sheets, and I just cover the back of it and bring it over the top and close it for the night. And I'll stick in some heat mats in there, and it keeps it nice and toasty, at least for me. I don't get snow or none of that in my area, but that keeps things warm enough that I can just keep all the plants happy in here and do winter sowing as well. Zone 9B, when should you start transplant your short day onions? I have a couple of video tutorials on my YouTube channel about growing onions. You want to wait till October, November, December. Like, there's a good long window for you to plant your short day onions. The goal is just to harvest them out before summer arrives, which you have plenty of time to do that. Georgina says, I don't understand how you could hate indoor plants. I don't blame my husband or a spouse because, like, I'm in Florida and I have not had a gnat problem, but they do go for like house plants, the soil, all that kind of thing. So it's something that you have to just be careful of, and it could occur. And that's what he's thinking about. He used to work in pest control, so he's like, any day now, you know, the house is going to get full of gnats or flies or whatever. I am not a house plant person. I only like to grow plants that have a purpose, like they're edible, medicinal, provide something for the pollinators or wildlife or whatever. Like, to me, it has to have a purpose for me to grow it. So houseplants are pretty and everything, but you know, I honestly don't really have houseplants in my house. But I will, you know, start the occasional seedlings in my house if I have to. And I do have a Vigo garden tomato trellis tower growing thing. It's actually the first time I've ever grown like an edible type of crop or whatever in my house. That thing is awesome. I absolutely love it. I'm doing a YouTube video right now about growing tomatoes indoors. So that's the only things I have in my house. I have plenty of stuff out here to worry about. Aaron's asking if you need a heat mat when you're sowing seeds for broccoli or brassicas indoors. No. Brassicas do not like warm soils to germinate. It's a cool season crop. They don't, no. If it's warm, that's not good for them. Whereas the opposite is true. If it's a warm season crop, they do like the warm soils. That helps them germinate. Do I do local pickup? No. I get asked that like every day. This is my house and I'm in an HOA community. I don't want to get in trouble by my HOA because they do have some stipulations with you can't like run a business publicly out of your house, you know, like people coming. I don't want to get in trouble with them. And just out of privacy for my husband. So at the present time, shipping is the only option. One day, the dream is to buy property and be able to be open to the public, have my garden, do garden tours, classes, all that kind of thing. I mean, that's the dream one day, but I don't know how to make that happen. And with the current like real estate climate of Florida, things are ridiculously expensive right now. But no, unfortunately, as of right now, I'm not open to the public. Your moringa is 6 feet tall, but all the branches are falling off. I mean, it could just be a natural death of the older leaves. Like plants, you know, I'll see people like, oh, the leaf's turning yellow. What's happening? It's just dying. Like the old leaves die, the new ones grow. So that could be it. It could be the change. Like I do feel like it's getting a little cooler now. I do know I'm looking at my moringa trees right now, like the older leaves, they do start turning yellow and they do start falling off. And when I harvest a whole bunch of leaves, I just take those off, and obviously I don't want to consume the yellow ones. So I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that's normal. I would be concerned if the entire thing was turning yellow. If you keep your peppers warm and give them enough light and they have good nutrients in the soil, then yeah, they will grow and produce for you. Lots of people grow peppers indoors. I personally have not, but I am growing that tomato indoors. I have a Mars Hydro Light on that tomato plant. It's in good soil. I give it fertilizer and it's producing tomatoes for me. So yes, if you can keep your pepper plant warm, all of that indoors, however setup you need, then yeah, it's going to work for you. Mint. Yeah, so I like to take a vine or whatever of the mints, count like 3 or 4 nodes. So nodes is where the leaves kind of sprout out of, and that's where the new roots will sprout out of. So I like to count 3 or 4, cut it right underneath that last node. I like to use rooting hormone powder, because I think that speeds up the rooting of my cuttings drastically. So I'll dip it in that and then just stick it in. Sometimes I'll use these 72 cell trays for that, or whatever soil you want. It's starting to get dark, guys. So I'm going to finish up here. How do I harvest my moringa? Do I cut off a branch or just pick the leaves? Both. It just depends how much I need. I actually have a video on my channel showing how I harvest, dry, and powderize moringa. So I will go through and usually hack the whole thing down a couple times a year. I just did it in August before we got like a tropical storm or whatever that came our way, because I didn't want all the leaves to fly off. So yeah, I will, I have like a mini 6-inch chainsaw that I use. I will use that to cut through some of the thicker ones, or shears, it just depends, and hack a whole bunch of them. Then I wash them, remove the smaller twigs and that kind of thing. It's a whole process, but when you do it, you end up with a lot, so it lasts you for a long time. What perennial plants would I recommend for a grow bag? Anything. Like, seriously, you can grow anything in a grow bag. I have tons and tons of grow bags all over my garden. I have raised beds, grow bags, green stock garden towers. Like, you'll probably end up with a big mix of different stuff to garden in. Really, honestly, you can grow anything in a container or a grow bag as long as it's big enough to support the root system. Like, you can grow dwarf fruit trees in one as long as it's a big enough grow bag or container. I would say for something like a beefsteak tomato plant, put it in at least a 15-gallon size container or up. So then you can only imagine how much bigger of a bag you would need for like a fruit tree or something. But yeah, you can pretty much grow anything in a container or a grow bag. The only exception being something like yucca, cassava, because that forms a huge root system, and if you put that in a pot, it gets all messed up. You want nice long cassava roots. It's easier to peel and cook and all that. So something like that is where I'd be like, nah, yeah, don't grow that in a container, but pretty much anything if you wanted to. If Sarah says your ají dulce flowers but never fruits, usually with peppers, eggplants, tomatoes, if they're flowering but it doesn't turn into fruit, it either didn't get pollinated or it's too hot. And if it's too hot, you just gotta wait. Like I have ají cachuco, which is ají dulce. It goes by so many names, and they're like, they look great. The plants look beautiful and healthy, but they're definitely not flowering right now or producing because it's too hot for them right now. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. In my head, I was like 30 minutes Q&A, and it turned out into almost an hour and a half, which usually is what always happens when I go live because I love talking so much about gardening. So I'm gonna call it a night here. Thank you so much for everyone that participated. I hope this information helped you guys out. Don't forget about my plant sale, 15% off all plants with plant15 code that ends tonight. And yeah, that's everything for now. These classes and stuff are pretty random. It just depends on my schedule and what's going on in the garden. So I'm just doing these Q&As that are, just open-ended for everyone. But then I have like more garden classes on set topics and stuff like that for my members only going forward. So I will be putting a class together for my members. I have 2 ideas. I guess I'm going to ask my members, what do you guys want? But I either wanted to talk about how to plant tomatoes and show you guys like my whole setup there, or talking about herb gardening, how to start an herb garden and seeds and that, because that's exactly what I'm doing right now. So I guess members, just let me know what you guys prefer, and I will pick a date sometime this month, and we'll get together again for that. But thank you so much, guys. I had a great time as always. Have a great rest of your evening.